Hi everyone, I'm Joseph with Christians on Campus, Oklahoma. It has been wonderful these past few weeks to get back to the basics in our Christian life. In our last Back to the Basics video, we saw that the Christian life is not just an individual life, but also a corporate life. A life that desires to gather together with other believers. And we got to see the benefits and importance for us as Christians to meet together. Today, we'll be continuing this topic of meeting, and we will see 6 different kinds of Christian meetings shown in the Bible. The first meeting I would like to mention is the bread-breaking meeting. In Acts 27, it says, "And on the first day of the week, when we gathered together to break bread." The bread-breaking meeting is the gathering of the believers to partake of the Lord's table and to eat the Lord's Supper. 1 Corinthians refers to the matter of bread-breaking 2 times. In chapter 11, verses 20 through 25, we see that in the Lord's Supper, with the breaking of the bread and the drinking of the cup, the focus is the remembrance of the Lord. And in chapter 10, 16 through 17, we see that the focus of partaking of the Lord's table is the fellowshipping with the believers. The second meeting is the prayer meeting. In Acts 12:12, Peter goes to the house of Mary, where there was a considerable number assembled together and praying. Just as our individual times of prayer to the Lord are important, so also are our times of prayer to the Lord with other believers. Regardless of how many of us pray together, we must pray as one person. Such corporate prayers in harmony and in one accord are more powerful than individual prayers. This is the reason the Bible, especially in Acts, shows the church meeting together to pray whenever important matters were encountered. This can be compared to moving an object. Although one person may be able to move a 100-pound object by himself, no one can move an object that weighs 1,000 pounds. Even if 10 people were to take turns pushing the object, no one would be able to move it. But if a concerted effort were made to move it together, we may not even need 10 people. This is the principle of a meeting. The strength in Christian meetings is increased by multiplication, not merely by addition. The third kind of meeting is for the exercise of gifts, as presented in 1 Corinthians 14. Both the bread-breaking meeting and the prayer meeting are meetings of the church, where all the believers function in mutuality. The meeting for exercising our gifts is also a meeting of the church, for all the believers to function in mutuality. In verse 26, it says, "Whenever you come together, each one has a psalm, has a teaching, has a revelation, has a tongue, has an interpretation. Let all things be done for building up." The meeting for the exercise of gift is not a meeting for the display of gifts, but for the edifying, the building up of the church. It is not for someone to sing a spiritual song so that others will know how well he or she sings, but it should be for the edification of those who are listening. Each one has a gift, whether it is a song, a prayer, a revelation, a prophecy, a tongue, an interpretation. And in this meeting, every person has an equal opportunity to exercise his or her gift. And the exercise of these gifts are for the building up of the church. The fourth kind of meeting is the Bible study meeting. In this meeting, the believers gather together to read the Lord's Word. Colossians 4:16 refers to this kind of meeting. "And when this letter is read among you, cause that it be read in the church of the Laodiceans also, and that you also read the one from Laodicea." This letter refers to the book of Colossians, which was a letter to the church in Colossae. the believers in Colossae gathered together to read this letter. The fifth kind of meeting is the ministry meeting. The scriptural basis for this relatively simple meeting is found in Acts 20 verse 7, when Paul conversed with them since he was to go forth on the next day, and he extended his message until midnight. When we are coming to a ministry meeting, there must be the feeling that we are coming to listen to the Lord's Word. The Lord's revelation and light are in His Word. Therefore, we must have a seeking heart, an open spirit in order to hear and receive the Lord's revelation and light in the ministry meeting. Finally, the sixth kind of meeting is for the preaching of the gospel. In Acts chapter 10, Cornelius, a Roman centurion, invited his relatives and intimate friends to his house to hear Peter's gospel message. This kind of meeting is for the believers to bring people to hear the gospel and to help people receive the Lord. It is so wonderful to have many kinds of Christian meetings for our Christian life. May we be like those in Hebrews 10:25, not abandoning our own assembling together, but exhorting and encouraging one another in our Christian meetings.